All right, so we're right back where we left off, right after the audio edit movie. And in this movie, what I want to talk about is creating quick transitions. A lot of times in AVID, you will find yourself creating just a quick transition between two segments of clips, maybe a fade in or a dissolve. And sometimes it's at the beginning or at the end of a sequence, and sometimes in between individual segments. So let's take a look at how to do just that. First thing we want to do is click on the timeline to activate it. And we know that it's activated because the top three most buttons of our timeline are colorized and in bright and vibrant, okay? So what I want to do is, in this movie, we want to talk about the video. So I'm going to turn off the audio tracks, and I want to hit Command L on the keyboard to make my video tracks larger. And if you wanted to make something smaller, you just make sure that those tracks are selected and you hit Command K to make it smaller. So let's say we want to add a transition right between these last two clips in my video track 1. In the timeline, right here at the very top is the quick transitions button. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. Remember that in AVID, if you hover over any tool or any action, it gives you a little tooltip giving you an indication of what it is. So I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to click on that. When I do, it gives me that quick transitions dialog box. The first thing on the left, it gives you the visual of what do you want, where do you want this transition to be applied to. And in this case, I only want it to be applied to V1 because I'm just looking at these bottom two clips. And it doesn't matter that it doesn't show you that it deselected here. As long as you only have one area selected or the area that you want to be affected is selected, you'll be just fine. So when we move over to the center of the dialog box, we notice that it gives you an option of what do you want to add. We can add a dissolve, a film dissolve, fade to color, dip to color, and some other options. So we're going to keep it at dissolve. Underneath that, it gives you an option of where do you want it to be positioned. You can end at the cut, you can center on the cut, you can start at the cut, or you can even click and drag and it creates a custom quick transition dissolve based on how you want it. And you can use these buttons here to start at the cut, center on the cut, or end at the cut. Okay? So I'm going to go back here to centered on the cut, and I want to pay attention to this middle section here. On the A side, we notice that it gives us this little number, and that's an indication of how many frames we have as a tail for the A side, or this cowboy clip down here at the bottom. Right here is the B side. It's telling us that we have 33 frames of head in the zoom in Kelvin segment to play with for this transition. So we can say, let's say we want it to be 15 frames centered on the cut, and now we're happy with how that is. We're going to hit add, and it creates a 15 frame dissolve centered on the cut between these two clips. So let's take a look. I'm going to hit the space bar to play.
460,000.
Perfect, and that's my fancy, really fancy dancy title I made in the previous movie. Let's say we wanted to remove it. We can hit the remove effect button right here on the timeline as well. And if I click on that, it removes that transition. I'm going to Command Z to get my transition back because I worked so hard on it. And let's say now we want to add transitions to several segments. Let's say we had this timeline completely filled. We had all these video segments on here, and we wanted a quick dissolve between every single one for whatever reason. You can do that as well. So I'm going to remove my effect here for a second, and you can do that by adding an out and an in. All right, now that we've selected an in and an out, when I go to that quick transition, or you can hit the backspace key on your keyboard. When I do that, it brings up that quick transition box. Now I can say I want to apply to V1, and you'll notice it looks exactly the same, but at the very bottom here, it gives us this option. Because we made an in and an out on the sequence, it gives us an option to apply this dissolve, this many frames between, to all of my segments in between that in and out. Now when I hit add and render, oh, this is perfect. It gives me an insufficient source. So in one of my clips, I don't have enough head on the B side to create exactly the amount of frames that I wanted. So it gives me this option, size to fit. So I'm going to hit OK, size to fit, and it looks like several of them are happening. So some of them are going to be a little bit shorter than I initially intended. So let me play this, and now we'll see how this looks. Spacebar.
My name is Calvin Hagan from Niverville, Manitoba. And honestly, I'm a chicken salesman. As part of my job,
Perfect. So I'm going to Command S to save the file. I'm going to hit G to clear the markers, and now I have successfully applied a dissolve centered on the cut between several of my segments on the sequence. You can also apply a quick transition to audio as well. So I'm going to hit function right arrow to go to the end, or you can hit end on the keyboard to go to the end of your sequence. And then I'm going to hit the backspace key. Oh, it won't do it. Let's see. Oh, you know why it won't do that? Because I don't have the audio selected. So let us go back to that quick transition. And now I can apply a quick transition. 15 frames is fine. And now I've successfully added a transition, and I faded the audio out. It sort of faded out on its own. Let's try that again. Command Z, go back here, and let's do end on the cut. Let's do something like 45 so we can really see it. Now I'm going to back up here, play it. Now it successfully dissolved that audio. So you can add dissolves to video tracks and audio tracks, and you can manipulate them even further. If I come back here to my videos, I'm going to turn off my audio tracks, and I'm going to turn on this button here, transition manipulation. When you have that on, let me zoom in, use that scale bar. You can see, let me turn it off. You can see when I have it on, hopefully you can see this, you have little boxes that allow you and show up in between your transition. Now I can pull and manipulate this transition and make it even longer. So I'm going to zoom back out. And when we're in here, you can see at the very top, this changes, and it's giving us a first, middle, and last of the A side, and a first, middle, and last frame of the B side clip. Okay, so we can get an idea of what's happening. If I click off of here and click out of here, and let me scale back. Now let's take a look at how that looks.
as part of my job, I do.
So I made that transition happen a lot slower by stretching it out. So you can do that with that transition manipulation button. So lots of things that you can do with that quick transition. I would suggest kind of going through, playing through, getting an idea of how to create them, how to remove them. It's kind of fun to play with and get an idea of what it all means. What does center on a cut mean? What does when you hit ending on a cut? So kind of go through all the motions, and you can always add them, remove them, and manipulate them at your will. Later on, we're going to talk about more effects and more things that you can do that are beyond the basic level, and those are found in your project window. So you activate the project window, and in the fourth tab over, it's the effect tab, and it gives you a whole bunch of effects that you can add to your sequences, to your video segments, and more. So we'll continue talking about that in a later movie. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching.